All attendees are in listen-only mode, and this webinar will last approximately 1 hour. There is time at the end for the Q&A. And type your questions into the questions box that is located in the panel to the right of your screen. And this call is being recorded. I will send out the link for this and the slides. So we'll have introductions, and we'll start with data collection and submission, and then go to informed consent. Actually, Jack, can you hear me? Or can
I am on now.
Yay!
I'm sorry about that.
No problem.
Yeah, one computer doesn't have a mic, the computer that T-Noise gives me. And the other computer, which I've used with GoToMeeting a number of times, is a Mac Air, but today they say they're not supporting Mac anymore or something.
Oh, well, that's very meh. Well, I'm glad that you could finally, regardless of...
So I'm on.
All right, yay. So we'll start with Jack. Okay. We'll go on to data collection and submission, and then the Q&A session. So on
Great.
Today's call, I'm Jennifer Paulson, the Director of Development and Training for THN. And like I said, we have Jack Nowicki, who is the Senior Program Development Specialist with T-Noise, and Cynthia Osborne, the Director of Child and Family Research Partnership. So we'll start with you, Jack.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to let you know when I want you to give me a slide.
Okay.
First slide. Okay. Basically, I'm on this call to talk about obtaining informed consent from the young people who are being interviewed for the youth count. And obtaining informed consent really is about helping the young person to know that, and helping everybody else to know that the young person that we're interviewing has given permission for us to interview them, and that they understand and have been told the reasons and the uses for the information that they're going to share. So it means not tricking or using dishonesty, threats, or force. It means giving them sufficient information in an understandable language to them so that the young person can make an informed decision and say, yes, I understand all this and I do want to participate. And for this study, based on what the law requires, we can obtain a youth's verbal consent, and that's sufficient for informing consent for their participating in Youth Count Texas. Next slide. So what we want to do when we're meeting with the young person, or our interviewers are meeting with the young person, is we want to state up front when we first walk up to them that their participation in Youth Count Texas is voluntary, and it's not a requirement to access or receive any services. We want our interviewers to state up front that some questions in this survey may be very personal, and if one of those questions comes up, then the young person can skip those questions if they're not comfortable or don't want to answer them for any reason. Also want the interviewers to share information about the survey's incentive and ask the person if they would like to take the survey and not proceed unless they say yes and they know what it's about and they're willing to participate. So that's the part on informed consent, and based on the law in Texas, that'll cover us for informing people what they're getting into. Now, protecting confidentiality. The responses on this survey are completely confidential. So, what is confidentiality? Confidentiality means that all the information that the youth tell us is only used for the purpose of this youth count. This information will not be shared with others, won't ask young people any identifying information such as their name, address, social security, any of that stuff. And that's part of the reason that the informed consent, even though they're a person under the age of adulthood, you know, they can give informed consent, is that the information is, we're not collecting any identifiable information. This information is not going to be shared with any person or anybody else aside from the people that are conducting the survey, except if the young person asks the interviewer to do so. Now, in a situation where a young person may participate in this interview and say, oh, well, I would really like to have some services, or I'd like to know, could you call a shelter for me, or could you assist me to get off the street or something? If the young person asks the interviewer to share information, then that's the only situation in which any information would be shared aside from the needs of the youth count. So confidentiality is important because it's all about safety, and it keeps the youth and the volunteers safe from harm and ensures that no one gets taken advantage of. Next slide. If y'all have questions, you can ask them at the end of this, I guess. Protecting confidentiality. Youth who are homeless or on the streets that are participating in this youth count could be very shy about talking to our interviewers, or in some instances, we've seen that the young people are just happy that somebody's paying attention to them, and they will tell you way more than you even care to hear about without you asking. So, you know, either way, what we want to do is be very respectful to the young people. We want to stay neutral, respectful, and not share any of their private information with anyone. That means that our information gatherers have to maintain a professional work kind of boundaries with these young people. In any situation where the interviewer is concerned about any of the confidentiality stuff, then they let the team leaders know if they think the young person is in immediate need of help or resources. Now, it could be that a lot of our interviewers will think that all of these young people are in need of help and resources, but due to the requirements of confidentiality, we don't want to break that confidentiality unless there's an immediate danger to the young person or others. And that should be done through the team leader. Next slide. So, in explaining confidentiality to the youth that we're surveying, a guide would be to say something like, all of your responses on this survey are completely confidential. This means we will not share your name or other identifying information about you with anyone, and what you tell us will only be used for the purposes of this survey. So that's really the part that I have in my responsibility for this webinar. I'm available to answer questions. I'm looking at my computer right now to see if there's any questions. And if anybody wants and needs, I think you all have some additional slides there on building rapport if anyone wants me to review those slides. I'm not going to review those unless you all want me to.
Yeah, so let us know. You can type into the chat if you'd like to review these slides. Otherwise, we will include those in the email that I send out to everyone with the recording. of this webinar.
Yeah, those are part of the training materials that we've developed, and I threw them in on this because based on the amount of time that you all gave me, I thought, there may be some questions about, well, how do I establish a relationship with the young person such that they'll ask me questions or talk to me or whatever. And so I wanted to throw this information in if anybody's interested in hearing it, or if questions might lead to some of the additional information. I don't see that we have any questions.
No. Okay, well, you were very thorough then.
And this material is all available on our website under the youth count. It's part of the training materials that are available for communities who want to do the training or communities who want to request that Texas Network of Youth Service come out and do some training with them.
All right. Thank you, Jack. And
you're quite welcome.
Okay. All right, so then we will move on to Cynthia. So Jack, I'm going to mute you so you can speak in the background if you'd like.
Thank you.
All right, so let's move forward. Like I said, these will be included in the handouts, and we'll start with Cynthia Osborne, with the Director of Child and Family Research Partnership.
Great. Well, thanks for allowing me time to talk with you guys today. I think that who I'm speaking with is mostly either the directors or the folks who are going to be kind of managing the data from the COCs, and so that's kind of my intended audience. And if I'm kind of missing the mark, then you guys let me know in Q&A. But again, my name is Cynthia Osborne. I direct what's called the Child and Family Research Partnership. We are at the LBJ School of Public Affairs at the University of Texas at Austin. And if you could go to the next slide, I'll tell you a little bit about what I plan to cover in the next few minutes. Tell you a little bit more about what it is that our role is in this whole Texas Youth Count enterprise, is then to talk to you about the different instruments that we know about that might be being used for the youth count, and then to get a better understanding of the type of instruments that are going to be used. To share with you the methods that each of the COCs can choose to use to provide the data to my group, and then to talk to you more about the information specifically that we need from you kind of in the short term so that we can do a better job serving you in the longer term. So if you go to the next slide, the Child and Family Research Partnership, again, is a research center here at UT Austin, and we've been working with TNOYS and the Texas Housing and Development Community. I always get this wrong. I'm sorry. I think I even have it spelled wrong there, but THDCA is what it should be, to help them collect and clean and prepare the data for analysis from the Texas Youth Count. And so our role is to work with each of you to find out what it is that you're going to be doing, what the instrument is that you're going to be using, and then to work directly with you to develop a way that you can share the data with us. My research associate, Allie DeGraff, is going to be working with me to do this, and we'll be the contact person with you. So if you get an email from either me, Cynthia Osborne, or Allie DeGraff, then you will know kind of who it is that is reaching out to you. If you go to the next slide, I think that you're all aware, and I know that you are, that there has been this core set of data elements that have been developed, both, HUD develops it for the point in time count, but that Texas is kind of pulled together for a youth count based on some of the best practices from the youth counts that have been conducted in the state previously. And that sets a minimum of what has to be collected. TNOYS and with some of our assistants work to develop an instrument that could be used for the point in time count or a youth count, and those are available from TNOYS and maybe with the housing group too. I'm sorry that there's some facts I'm not aware of. but that those are available for you to use that are kind of a consistent instrument that could be used across the state. However, your sites are free to develop their own instrument so long as they include the core data elements. And so we're going to get a better sense from each of you about what you're doing and whether you're doing a point-in-time count, whether you're doing a magnet event, whether you're doing the longer survey or the shorter point-in-time count survey that you've used with your adults, or whether you've developed your own instrument. We're also going to need some additional information about whether you plan to collect this on paper or whether you're using some sort of electronic device like a tablet or something to collect the information directly. And I know some of the sites are doing it electronically, whereas others will be doing it on paper. And again, that's up to your site to make that decision. We just need to have that information going forward so that we can work with you on how best to gather and prepare your data for analysis. So on the next slide, we lay out different methods that you will be able to use, or we start to discuss kind of how you might provide the data to us. And again, what you're doing is providing the data to us as an intermediary who will prepare this data and provide it to the housing folks and to T-Noise. Then the analysis is going to take place. So this isn't the analytic step. This is really the cleaning and pulling it all together from across the state step. So after you conduct your point-in-time count or your magnet events or any of the other things that you're doing to collect your data, you're going to provide a copy of those data to CFRP for preparation. You will, I think most of you like to maintain your original data, and so we're just asking for a copy. I'll talk a little bit about data security in a second to confirm what Jack was talking about. And the method of how you're actually going to share that data with us is going to vary depending on whether you're collecting it through paper surveys or electronically and which instruments you're using. And so I'll provide a list for you on the next slide that kind of gives you the different options that you can use. But we're going to send out, or actually T-Noise, Christine from T-Noise will send out today a very brief survey to each of you. I'm serious, it's like 5 questions that really just helps us to understand what it is that you plan to do. So you'll share with us, your contact information and who we should be working with directly. You'll tell us kind of when you plan to collect the data, the instrument that you plan to use, whether you plan to do it paper or electronically. And then with that information, we will be able to follow up and work with you individually to set a firm deadline about when we need the data, but also just a convenient way, the most convenient way for you to share it with us. On the next slide, we lay out the various options that we've considered up to this point. And again, there might be some exceptions or additions to this based on the COC needs. But some of you, or I think many of you, will be using the instrument that was developed this past fall that is either for the point in time or the youth count survey. And by using those, that's obviously easier for preparing the data because they're consistent. But it's not necessary that you do it. It just is, we kind of list things here that are, easier for us down to more difficult for us, but we're not in it to just be easy. We're in it to help you and to get the job done. But this is kind of our order of, magical preferences. So if you are using the surveys that have already been developed, you can either collect the data electronically. We can provide you a survey link that would have it all set up for you, and you can collect it that way. You can collect it on paper. You can print out those and collect it on paper. And some of you are, I know, going to be entering your point-in-time data for the HUD information. You could enter the data for this as well, and you can share it with us. We can provide you a link to enter the data to for this survey. You can collect it on paper, and you can manually enter it into an Excel file if that's what you prefer to work with. If you're going to be entering your data into a computer database, we could provide to you this Excel file already kind of ready to go. You would share it back with us on a secure share file transfer. You could collect it on paper and scan the documents and upload them securely to the a secure transfer site with us. It's very simple to transfer that way. I want to make sure, Jennifer, am I still able to be heard? Because I'm hearing a little bit of feedback.
Yes, I can hear you fine, and I did hear the feedback, so I'll see if I can identify that.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I didn't lose anyone. And then you can do down to the point of collecting the data by paper and then mailing copies of those to us. So that's if you use your survey instruments that have already been collected or created. Some of you will develop your own survey instrument, and that is perfectly fine. And you can share your data with us basically in any of the ways that are listed above. So we can work with you so long as we can just get a copy of your instrument and know what you're using. We can set it up for you in a way that would be the easiest for you. We may not have time, depending, to set up your own instrument electronically before the 21st. We're kind of late in the game right now, but we can still consider it. So, because maybe it's not that different than the existing instrument. So those are the various options, and certainly if you have questions, I want to answer them. On the next slide, just kind of reiterates what Jack was talking about with regard to data security and privacy and all those really important things. We take security really seriously. We work with a lot of data here. I think most of the data are not identifiable. I think that that's the right approach. But we still treat everything as if it is identifiable. So when you are transferring data, we'll work with you to send it through secure mail or a secure file transfer protocol, and all of our electronic data collection instruments are managed securely. So I just want to make sure that you understand how important that is to us, and we understand that you guys are really putting your trust in the folks from whom you're collecting these data, and we don't want to violate that trust. Okay, on the next slide, just lays out what we would love for you to be able to do by Friday. I know it's late notice, it's just everything's kind of happening so quickly, or it's coming up so quickly, that we would love to just know, really we're asking just a couple of questions, like I said before. What are you planning to use? When are you actually doing it? We have some of that information, but not for all of the COCs, whether you're doing it on the 21st or at a subsequent date or both, whether you're collecting it by paper or electronic, about how many you think you might collect, and you may not know that answer, and that's fine too. We want to make sure that we know who you would like for us to work with directly within your organization to develop this plan for your site about how we'll share data. And the kind of just by and large kind of what your plans are. We would also like if you could share with us a copy of your instrument that you're using if it's different than the downloadable instruments, and that will just help us to really make sure that we know how we can merge all the data ultimately. And we hope that there's some consistency across the different COCs, so that that we can really make better comparisons across the communities and to merge the data in some meaningful way. But we are really open to working with your community directly and making it so that it's convenient and simple for you to share those data so that they can be prepared for analysis. We are going, it says the survey link we have here that it was going to be sent from my shop, but actually it's going to come out through T-Noise this afternoon. So to just avoid some confusion so that you're really just working with the same folks you've been working with, Christine or T-Noise will send you a link later today. And so I'm open to questions, and also my contact information is on the front of these slides. And you can contact me or Allie directly to, if we're not able to answer your questions today or you have more questions that come up.
Okay, well, thank you very much. So please type your questions into the questions section. There are a couple of questions. So deadline to turn in data, I know we had talked about that. And what is the deadline?
The deadline, the final deadline, I think by kind of some contract, is March 11th. However, we're going to work with individual sites to try and see how much sooner we could get the deadline after you've collected it. So for those of you who are not entering electronically or you're just scanning your documents, it might be that we can get them much sooner because we have to enter the data then. So we would like to work with you on an earlier deadline. For those of you who are collecting it electronically, you may be able to share it with us more quickly, and that will help us to clean and merge. So we're going to work with individual sites, but it would be kind of early March is the drop dead.
Okay, and you'll be contacting each site, I guess.
Right. Those who respond to our survey, if you don't respond to the survey that's being sent out today, we don't know that you're doing it. And so we won't know how to work with you. So please, 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 please respond to the survey. And literally, it shouldn't take you more than 5 minutes, I promise, or even less.
Okay, and really what you're wanting to know from the survey is the people who are responsible for entering the data and supplying it to you, you need to know how they're going to do it. So like if you're doing the count but you're not doing the data entry, they don't need to fill out the survey.
So that's not totally true. Whoever gets the email, we're kind of indifferent to who at the organization fills it out. I'm thinking that the emails probably go to the EDs, but I don't actually know. I mean, it's the typical list that receives the information from T-Noise about this. We do ask for a place in which they'd give us an additional name of the person who's managing the data if there is someone at the COC in that role that they would like us to deal with more directly. But there's just a couple of questions about what's the instrument that you plan to use, when do you plan to collect it, what type of method would you prefer to use to share the data with us. So we're just trying to get we really don't know what each site is doing at this point. We're kind of driving blind. So in order to kind of develop a good system for sharing the data with us, we need to have a better sense of what you're using and what you're doing.
Okay, great. And then for the longer, the 6-page assessment, how will you be collecting that data? Will there be like an electronic or a separate Excel file that you want that data in?
Are you talking about the longer survey?
Yes. So there are 2 surveys, but there's one that's like a 6-page and one that's the shorter one.
Right, and so both of those, so that's what I said. You could be doing the point in time count or the youth survey. Both of those were developed by T-Noise, and they're available. Or you might be using something completely different. That could be 1 page, 6 pages, 10 pages. I don't know, because every site is kind of making that choice themselves. So we're just asking to find out what the sites are actually using. But the method of sharing, we'll build a survey instrument. We will build the kind of plan for sharing based on the instrument that you're using.
Great. Okay, and let's see if there are any other questions? If you guys want to enter. Okay, and then, of course, like you said, that they can contact you if they have additional questions, and the same with Jack. So with that, I will go ahead and wrap up because it doesn't look like there are more questions. And I greatly appreciate both of your time today and participation and putting this information together for us.
Great. Well, thanks for letting us be a part of it. Appreciate it.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you, and you guys have a wonderful day. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording and close the webinar, and I will send follow-up email.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.